Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Monday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and man, it seems like it's been like a month since I've recorded a video. Probably because so much stuff has happened since then. Not just with the Mets, of course, with the playoffs. I've had some technical difficulties getting some videos off of my phone and rendered into something I can post on YouTube. So hopefully that's not the case today. And if you're seeing this right now, it won't be. But I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the playoffs, and I want to weigh in on where things stand with the Mets' current managerial search. And we'll do that on today's show. Before we talk about the Mets and their managers, I want to touch on where things stand with the playoffs right now. Last video I recorded was last Monday, and I was out of town all of last week, and the playoffs have not unfolded the way I'd hoped, to say the least. I mean, that goes all the way back to the wild card game. I certainly wanted to see the Brewers beat the Nationals in that game, and I most definitely did not want to see the Nationals advance beyond where they are right now, because I did not consider that wild card win the first series win, because it's just a game, as I said at the time. But I got to give the Nats a lot of credit. They've gone through the best team in the National League, arguably the best team in baseball all year, and they defeated them. And I blame Dave Roberts for about 46% of that loss, because he, for whatever reason, and I tweeted this, and this got a pretty good amount of attention when I tweeted it, but I tweeted that I will never understand why managers in the postseason decide that starters are the best options out of the bullpen, even though in the case of the Dodgers, they won 107 games in the regular season by actually using relief pitchers out of the bullpen. It's mind-boggling to me. And not only that, but to use Clayton Kershaw, who has a history of shitting the bed in the playoffs. I just cannot understand why Dave Roberts did that. He cost his team that series. If this was Mickey Callaway, we'd be cutting his head off and putting it on a pike and walking around Seaver Way with it, carrying it. I mean, there's just no excuse for what happened to the Dodgers. And that they're bringing Dave Roberts back is amazing to me. And it's also proof positive, and as I'll get to the manager thing in a minute, that the manager, can make or break a season. And we saw it with Mickey Callaway this year. He made a lot of terrible mistakes that cost the Mets a bunch of games that might have been the difference in the playoffs and not the playoffs. But Dave Roberts manages his team to 107 wins because his team is really good, and anybody can do that in the regular season, blindfolded. It's when you get to the playoffs is when it matters most. And man, Dave Roberts just does not know what he's doing. He looks lost. This for the Dodgers this year. It was World Series or bust, and the fact that they got eliminated in the NLDS, that's got to be embarrassing as hell. But like I said, they're bringing Dave Roberts back, so I guess they must not be that upset about it. So after Dave Roberts and the Dodgers debacle, the Nationals, of course, moved on to face the St. Louis Cardinals. Another one that was just like, ugh. I have to say, I was actually rooting for the Braves. I know it's awful, but I just hate the Cardinals so much. And I'll never forgive them for what happened in 2006, ever. Particularly so long as Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright are both on the team. If they weren't on this Cardinals team, I think I'd be okay rooting for the Cardinals over, would have been okay rooting for the Cardinals over the Braves. But because Molina is still there, because that smirking shitbag Molina is still on that team, I can't get past what happened 13 years ago. So I was rooting for the Braves in the divisional series. But man, now that it's the Nationals and the Cardinals head-to-head, I hate the Nationals. I hate the Nationals so much. I don't want to see them win anything. And yet they're up 2-0. And I don't know that the Cardinals are going to come back from this because, they lost 2 games at home, and now they go into D.C. Not that that's like any kind of home field advantage. It's not like they're a very rowdy bunch. They can barely pack the stadium. In fact, there were some reports in the divisional series games that the stadium was not sold out. which I just cannot fathom. I cannot fathom how you don't sell out your park in a playoff series. I don't get it. But hey, whatever, man. Attitude. So, in any event, I do expect the Nationals to win the pennant. Ugh, it hurts so bad to say it. And advance to the World Series to face the Houston Astros. Yes, I do think the Astros are going to beat the Yankees, even though in the opener of that ALCS, the Yankees really walloped the Astros. I think that the pitching is going to win out for the Stros. I think Garrett Cole tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon now actually, will shut down the Yankees offense. And if he can't, I think tomorrow is going to be really telling. If Cole does not shut down the Yankees tomorrow, the Astros are finished. That's my prediction. Either way, I don't see the Nationals matching up with either of those two teams. I really don't. And it could just be wishful thinking again, because I said the same thing about the Dodgers. I said the same thing about the Braves. And I didn't really feel that way about the Cardinals so much, but that's why they play the games, right? So the playoffs are well underway. I don't know. It's tough to watch, especially the National League with the Nationals and the Cardinals, but just got to root for the AL this year. And even if it means for me rooting for the Yankees, I am going to do it, because I do not want to see either the Nationals or the Cardinals win the World Series. I will stomach the Yankees winning to avoid those two teams winning again. Or in the case of the Cardinals, again, in the case of the Nationals, ever, because I never want them to win a World Series, ever. Till they move back to Montreal. Then win all you want. So, on the Mets front with the managerial search, they're starting to conduct interviews. The rumor yesterday was that Carlos Beltran is ready to manage a team, as he feels he's ready, and the only team he wants to manage is the Mets. First of all, that's awesome that he wants to manage the Mets. Secondly, I think that despite it being wonderful, I don't care. The Mets vacancy can only be filled by one person, and that's Joe Girardi. It's got to be Girardi. He has the experience. He has the pedigree in New York. He's the guy that needs to be brought in right now. And if it's not Girardi, I think they should have just kept Mickey Callaway, because bringing in another first-time manager is just going to introduce a whole world of new learning curve type mistakes that Mickey Callaway made in his first and even in his second year as a manager. So if that was the plan, if the plan was to replace Callaway with someone with more experience, because you felt like the mistakes that Mickey made were rookie mistakes, you can't go bringing in a rookie manager. You just can't. It doesn't make any sense. You're better off keeping Callaway and keeping that chemistry that he'd established in the clubhouse. So that's my only concern with Girardi, that he might sort of clash with some of the chemistry that Callaway and company had built in the Mets clubhouse. But we'll see. So I don't know that they're going to make any decisions anytime soon. I really hope that the day after the World Series they're able to announce it. I know that Major League Baseball doesn't like announcements to interfere with the playoffs, so the Mets might have already made up their mind, but they aren't going to actually announce their decision until after the World Series is over. But again, in my opinion, it's got to be Girardi. So I think most people agree with that assessment, so I'm not stating anything new, but I'm certainly not going to provide a contrarian opinion. It's got to be Girardi. So, I will be back tomorrow. I hope. What I plan to do tomorrow is do a recap of my Game Balls and Goats awards that I've given out this season, reviewing who finished in first, who finished in last. I basically did a weighted system where I sort of created a war, like a P war, right? Like Phil's war system or something. But I took all of the game balls that I had awarded, and I subtracted any goats from anyone who received a goat, and each player has a weighted value in terms of a most valuable player who contributed the most wins, quote unquote, to the Mets team this year. And I'm going to go over those tomorrow and do a little bit of a recap. So until then, assuming I get this video uploaded, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. I'll be back tomorrow. So until then, as always, let's go Mets.